Governments deny it. Militaries deny it. Even the mainstream media denies it. But they are here, and they've been here for a very long time. The Mutual UFO Network has been on the front lines uncovering the truth since 1969, and now we're sharing that truth with you. Welcome to MUFON What's Up with your hosts, Katie Page, Christopher DePerno, and Katie Cook, exclusively on the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. Wondering what's up? So are we.
What's up? It is Tuesday night, and you're listening to MUFON What's Up Radio, the show that says discovery starts with curiosity, and curiosity starts with MUFON. Brought to you by KGRADB.com. Please go to their website and subscribe. We are endorsed by MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, always asking that all-important question, are we alone in the universe? I am your host, Katie Page, Colorado MUFON State Director and International MUFON's Mars Team Administrator. I want to talk to you about an event that's coming up here October 12th through the 16th. The UFO Congress is back, and it is back live, and it is in Phoenix, Arizona. I am so excited about this. We are going to go and have a super great time. I hope that all of you can make it out there. The event location actually is only 8 minutes away from the Phoenix airport, so you can catch an Uber or a Lyft or whatever mode of transportation you prefer and get over to the Sheridan Mesa Hotel at Wrigleyville. And of course, I have to put on my Cubbies hat. Oh wait, it doesn't fit over my headphones here, but it is right next door to the Cubbies, the Chicago Cubs training facility. And I'm a diehard Cubs fan because, I'm from Illinois. And when you're born into that dynasty, it kind of sticks and goes generation to generation. So I hope to see you guys all out there in October. And you can check out their website at ufocongress.com to get more information about that event. Tonight's special guest is Jennifer Stein. Jennifer Stein is just one of the most fabulous, fantastic, wonderful ladies there is. And I'm so excited that she is here with us tonight. And I can't wait to get into some great discussion with Jennifer later. I would like to introduce my co-hosts. First, we have the talented, beautiful Katie Cook. You see her on Country Music Television, and she is into all things UFO paranormal. Welcome, Katie.
Hi. Oh my gosh, you've got me excited about UFO Congress. I don't have my ticket yet, but I'm planning on being there. I think it's just one of the best events. So let's go. Everybody come
All right,
join
we're going to
us.
say there's beautiful pools, there's beautiful restaurants, there's like fire pits. We are going to have a cocktail and have a great time. Let's bring in Jerry, Jenna, and Chris. Hey, speaking of Jenna, my daughter Jenna's watching tonight, so shout out to my daughter Jenna. But we have Jerry and Jenna, the aliens, too. And Chris DePerno, he is New York State Director and on the ERT. Welcome, Chris, Jerry, and Jenna.
I know. Jerry's a little embarrassed about this show. He failed crop circle making when he went to alien school. Didn't do very good. He said he got booted off of Earth and said no more crop circles. Nobody could understand it. It was terrible. He was terrible. He's a terrible artist. He can't do it. Anyways, we got a great show tonight. We got the fabulous Jennifer Stein. I have talked to Jennifer numerous times. I got to tell you, and when it comes to crop circles, there's nobody better than JS herself. She is just absolutely amazing. And when she shows you some of the things, I don't care what you say about those boards and the ropes and those guys. She's got the real deal about crop circles. She's going to be awesome.
Oh, yeah. Also expert on the whole Travis Walton story. So we'll be talking about that. Very knowledgeable.
That's right. So, Katie, what do you have to kick us off tonight?
Well, as usual, I got a funny meme for you guys. Amanda, if you can pull that up. This one gave me a giggle. For those of you guys just listening. So this guy's just walking right onto a UFO and his buddy on the sidewalk says, Jimmy, are you sure that guy's with Uber? Yes.
Going to UFO Congress.
That would be a freaking cool Uber, though. I would pay triple for that. And let's talk about our pop of the week. It's a giant Bigfoot foot. And look, it's like thin and yummy. Oh my God. If I can get through this show without eating this, it's going to be an absolute miracle. Giant Sasquatch foot for you there.
Yeah, there's nothing like eating.
I like the little hair tuft on the back of the heel.
I know, the little tuft. It's so cute. It's milk
chocolate toenails. Yeah,
so good. As always, you can order these Paranormal Pops at paranormalpops.com. But if sweets aren't your thing, because, not everybody's into chocolate, how about Bigfoot meatloaf? What do you think of this right here? Our amazing co-producer, Amanda Curran, created this fine piece of edible art. I'm hoping it tasted better than Bigfoot smells because, supposedly they smell terrible. But I think this.
I'm ready.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's get in. There's nothing like an onion toenail. Let's get. I want the Bigfoot.
Right,
I want the toe.
I'm out.
I want the toes. I want the toes.
It does have onion toenails. Oh my God. I actually think this is so creative. I'm vegetarian. I think Amanda's actually vegetarian too. So, we'd probably make it with veggie meat, but I thought that was
I'm not. Cute. Let's go for it, baby.
He's ready. All right. Finally, Nichelle Nichols, aka Lieutenant Uhura from Star Trek. As you know, she passed away on July 30th, left us for that great mothership in the sky. And, she boldly went where not many women, especially women of color, had gone before. And I know many of our viewers are big fans of her. So I found this awesome t-shirt for you guys. How cool is that? Lieutenant Uhura. She was so beautiful. I looked up to her so much when I was younger. So
she looked good in a short dress.
She could look good in anything. She was just cool. And anyway, baby. If you want that t-shirt, all right, simmer down now, Chris. If you want that t-shirt, you can go to stylinonline.com. That's STYLIN, stylinonline.com. All right, Chris, before we unleash you with the news, you know how every week we have a lot of fun with how you pronounce stuff. We're always goofing on it. But, spelling is very important too. And I recently found a UFO story that, well, let's just say they really should have worked a little better on their spelling. Let's pull up the headline here. Nebraska police officer abducted by aliens from nearest galaxy found out Earth was their energy source. But then I read down a little further and it says this encounter is one of the most discussed UFO cases among urologists.
It is. Listen, what do you think the first thing, if you see an alien in your bedroom, what's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to pee your pants. So you're going to need, doctor, I've been peeing in the bedroom at night. Why? I'm being abducted every other week.
All right, well, you've made sense.
It makes sense to me.
You have made sense. I was like, what the hell happened on this ship? So anyway, autocorrect, it's a situation, but double check your work, people. All right, speaking of news, Christopher, take it away. Take it away.
Take it away.
And here we go. All right, first story. Can't read it. Alien abducted Irish man and told him the world would end in 850 years. I don't have to worry about it. A retired carpenter named Jerry Battles claimed that he had been abducted by aliens while coming home after a Christmas drinks in the county of Limerick, Ireland. I lived in Ireland for 2 years, pal. There's no such thing as a couple of drinks there. On December 26th of 2001, during his abduction, the aliens warned him that the Earth would end with an asteroid the size of Munster in 850 years. Jerry told the Limerick Post what had happened to him, and he said that the sky was very clear and beautiful on the night he had been abducted. Yeah, that's the last thing I'm going to look about. What a clear and crisp and dry night it was and stuff. It was just beautiful, he says. It was around 8 p.m. Jerry was returning home from the Seven Sisters pub. When a strange light coming. Yeah, that's him passing out. Okay, anyways. The strange light coming from the end of the laneway took him to a spacecraft. He remembered that there were 40 males of different ages upon the board, that they all were of subdued state, standing shoulder to shoulder like mannequins and not moving. That's what happens when you get drunk on an alien ship. The man standing next to Jerry was wearing a Columbo-style coat and hat. You get abducted, and that's what you remember, a Columbo-style coat and hat. He felt himself in a state of paralysis and could only move his eyes. I was only minutes away from my house, but it was a clear and beautiful night. I guess it was a clear and beautiful night. Then I stopped to gaze at the stars, he explained. After that, he found himself floating into another chamber. That's where he first saw the extraterrestrial. He only remembered seeing the alien's big cone head and his beautiful ginormous eyes. Whatever ginormous is, that's the alien's eyes. The alien talked to Jerry through telepathy and said to him not to be terrified. No, I am not. Should I be? Jerry asked the next thing. He probably went to the urologist. The next thing the alien asked Jerry was, would you like to see, where we come from? He instantly chose the North Pole. Yeah, they wanted to go someplace. Now, let me tell you something. If an alien says to you, hey, any place you want to go, where do you want to go? You got to be either drunker than hell to want to go to the North Pole. But that's what he picked. All right. The alien fulfilled his wish and took him to the North Pole within seconds. He assured them that he had never had any history of mental illness. Jerry claimed the alien had told him that they were 4 million light years away and are more advanced than humans, and they have been observing us for thousands of years. The alien warned that an asteroid originating in the 35th quadrant would end our world in 850 years. 19 years have passed since the message was conveyed. The clock is ticking. In all that time, humans have excelled in two things: global warfare and lying to your own species. My wife can attest to the second one. You must use force. Be one of the force. Harness the force. Use the force, the alien said. Where the hell is the force? According to Jerry, the alien told him that the government and the banks tell lies to people because they are all hidden agenda, then we should not trust them. Yeah, that's news. Jerry did not remember how he was abducted and had no memory of the incident only until he found his coat he had been wearing on the day of his abduction. His coat was found on the rooftop of the regional hospital. Now, listen, I don't think the aliens are going to bring you back to a hospital. That's just me. Okay? And he had no idea how he got there. After he received his coat, his memory returned. Okay. Cookie? Oh, wait a minute. We got to throw that in there. Amanda.
Wait. No. Warn them first.
I am going to warn them. Hold on. Amanda, before you roll that video, I want to tell you something here. This is what it's going to be like. And when, hypothetically, when an asteroid is going to doom Earth. So, Amanda, this is just a theory now. Amanda, roll that video.
Professor Stephen Hawking and other scientists believe that to secure the future of the human species, we must colonize another planet.
To stay risks annihilation. It could be an asteroid hitting the Earth. It could be a new virus, climate change, nuclear war, artificial intelligence gone rogue. We can and must use our curiosity and intelligence to look to the stars.
This is a civil danger warning effective nationwide. Your utmost attention is required. All stations and cable systems shall transmit this emergency notification message. This is not a test. The following message is transmitted at the request of the United States government. An incoming non-terrestrial object heading directly for the Earth was spotted by the Mount Graham International Observatory in Arizona about 5 a.m. Eastern Time. The actual structure of the asteroid is thought to be a planetoid from the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter and had become entangled in Earth's gravitational field. It is currently projected to be the size of Guam, with a width of 549 kilometers, and is expected to make a direct course for the Pacific Ocean within the next 6 hours. The impact site is approximately 2,100 kilometers from the west coast of the United States. Since the asteroid was discovered on such short notice, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration and the United States Space Force have confirmed that it is too big to be diverted away from the Earth. This asteroid is expected to unleash 2,497 megatons of energy, causing blast wave that will be experienced throughout the Earth and mega tsunamis that will send ocean waters well up onto adjacent lands. The dust and debris from the impact would cause a global nuclear winter. The West Coast is predicted to be struck by a mega tsunami. All residents of Washington, Oregon, California, Nevada, and Arizona should evacuate to the eastern parts of the United States immediately. The Federal Emergency Management Agency and the National Guard will work together to facilitate the use of public transportation and mass evacuations. All citizens in the continental United States are urged to not panic and to seek shelter immediately.
Folks, let me tell you something. If an asteroid the size of Guam is going to hit the Earth, I think you're better off going to the liquor store, finding shelter there. But that's just me. Cookie, what do you think?
Well, I think I'm traumatized. Thanks for that. Not real, people. Everybody listening, do not panic. This is not real. Oh gosh, where do I start? Okay, ginormous just means really big. And you know, you're like
making got big eyes. What do I know?
Ginormous eyes. Okay. And you know, we're totally making fun of this guy, but I always think, what if it's real? My heart always goes to sympathy. And you know, Ann Strieber said, if it ain't weird, I don't trust it. So yeah, that's a really weird story. So therefore, they could have brought him back to the hospital. Maybe he needed to see the urologist. So we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah, he's been drinking at the Limerick pub. Listen, I spent 2 years, and there's no such thing as having one drink and go home over there. They're great people. Don't get me wrong. They're great people.
But just because you've been drinking doesn't mean you haven't been abducted. So
I didn't say that. I'm just saying. How many aliens? Hey, can you imagine that? Hey, Sam, we better take this guy to the hospital. We really screwed up here. Holy crap.
Okay. What do you think, KDP?
It's a delicate balance. You got to be careful here. But FI tip, you do want to ask, how many cocktails have you had? What sort of drugs are you taking? So, but who knows? Could have happened. And all I'm thinking is, man, I'm really happy I live close to Pikes Peak because I'm hiking it to the tops of Pikes Peak. That's all I'm thinking. But yeah, that's pretty traumatizing and scary. Gosh.
Yeah, I'm going to have nightmares tonight from that alert.
All right. Well, let me tell you something. You thought that was good. Wait until you see this one. Let me get here. I gotta put on my hat here.
Oh, what is happening? It
doesn't fit anymore. My head must have gotten bigger. Okay. Ha! Florida man attempts to break into Space Force base to warn the alien dragon space war. Is there a battle between aliens and dragons in space? The occurrence of which apparently one helpful citizen was trying to warn the Space Force about it last week. At Patrick Space Force Base, Corey Johnson, 29, was arrested for trying to enter the installation. The reason, according to what he told arresting officers, he was there on behalf of the President of the United States to alert the Space Force that there were U.S. aliens fighting with Chinese dragons. Do we have U.S. aliens? I don't know. Johnson had stolen a vehicle several days before his attempt to enter the Space Force installation, which oversees satellite launch operations on America's East Coast and may not be fighting dragons apparently at this time. Johnson was arrested trying to enter the base, his mission having been foiled by law enforcement. His theory, the Space Force job is to organize, train, equip, and provide forces and capabilities for the U.S. Space Command and other unified combatant commands as needed, and that could be fighting dragons. And it is an important mission: communication, intelligence, navigation, and missile launch warnings and fighting dragons. All of this relies on satellites, which the Space Force is responsible for operating. The branch even wants to start monitoring the space between the Earth and the Moon, creating an interplanetary highway patrol of sorts, sending Eric what's his name there? That guy on chips. Eric Estrada. That's what it is. We're going to have Eric Estrada in space in one of those chippies. So, for any other citizens looking for some civic engagement, it is likely that the Space Force is already aware of any alien on dragon engagements happening in orbit. The branch now has plans to move its headquarters. This guy made the move. The branch now has plans to move its headquarters to Alabama. What do you think? There's not crazies in Alabama where nothing like this could possibly ever happen again. I got to tell you, one place not to come is New York because it'll happen there. Anyways, that's the news, Cookie. What do you think?
Wait, isn't there a video for this one?
Oh, yes. Let's roll the video.
Apparently, the president of the United States, Joe Biden, has advised a Florida man to steal a truck to save the world. Now, at least that is what the excuse was when a 29-year-old man by the name of Corey Johnson was caught with a stolen F-150 by the authorities. They arrested him shortly after that. But it was also the fact that he was on his way to a very specific place in Florida. Corey Johnson, 29. I just want you to remember that he's 29 years old, because we're going to show you his mugshot and then it'll explain a lot about this story. Corey Johnson, 29, was arrested Friday at Patrick Space Force Base in Florida by local deputies after he attempted to get on base, according to an arrest citation. Johnson allegedly took control of a Ford F-150 several days prior to arriving at Patrick Space Force Base, and he didn't know who the owner was, according to local authorities. So here is the 29-year-old that we're talking about, his mugshot. I just don't think he looks 29 at all, and he might maybe, I don't know, I'm not sure, might be under the influence of something, because he also said, he stated that the president of the United States told him in his head he needed to take the vehicle. So he might be undergoing some psychosis here. Johnson explained that the president in his head needed him to drive to Patrick Air Force Base to warn the Guardians. He was told by the president he needed to tell the government there were U.S. aliens fighting with Chinese dragons. He was ultimately charged with grand theft of a motor vehicle because he did, in fact, steal an F-150, and that's illegal, in Florida and other places in this country. Sadly, Johnson never made it to the base, so the Space Force never got Johnson's urgent warning, and I don't know. Well, we're in a lot of trouble.
I know you're being tough on the guy, but I mean, you don't want to go to the base with your own truck because they're going to impound it. So you grab somebody else's truck, and you're on this is a mission to save the universe. You got to get to the Space Force headquarters to relate this important word. Somebody's got to tell the people in charge about the aliens and the Chinese dragons. I'm quite sympathetic to the guy.
Okay. I mean, he's got the good intentions. That matters, right, Ray?
Thank you. That's my point.
Yeah, exactly. Also, I'll just say any excuse to use that alien B-roll. Just any story where we could throw that in.
I'm not surprised that the story made it in the rundown, because that's probably the number one reason why it did.
It is the best B-roll.
Well,
Nope.
There you go. So, Cookie, what do you think? You think there's a war going on with Chinese dragons and U.S. aliens?
I had sympathy for the drunk guy from Ireland. I'm gonna go with this guy's just not quite right.
You know what the remarkable part about this story is? Some general's thinking, hey, there's crazies down here. We better move it to Alabama. So they're going to spend millions of dollars moving this place to Alabama? Yeah, wait till they find out what crazy is in Alabama.
Oh, well, way to alienate everyone from Alabama listening.
All these criminals using Bigfoot and aliens as excuses. That's all I have to say.
I'm telling you what, Chris.
Oh, geez.
I love
Folks,
you.
That's
You're
the
not
news.
right.
That's the news for the week.
Thank you, Chris.
It's the nose too.
Entertaining as always.
I may need chocolate to heal after this news cycle. Okay, let's see. Do we have case of the week?
We do. This week I did something a little different because we have Jennifer Stein here with us, and she, is very educated on crop circles. And the thought came to me, does anybody ever report crop circles into MUFON? And the answer to that is yes. It's not as often as most lights in the sky and UFOs and whatnot, but we do get a crop circle case from time to time. So this particular case is case number 109857. It's a category 3 case, which is our highest level of cases. It occurred on July 2nd, 2020 out of Belleville, Michigan at 9 a.m. There was a person at a gas station, and across from the gas station were some wheat fields, and he saw what he thought looked like multiple crop circles throughout the field. So he didn't know where else to report it, so he reported it to MUFON. We have a couple pictures of that. Amanda, if you want to put up picture 1 and picture 2. So there's one of the pictures that came with the case. And there's the second. And this case was actually closed as an IFO natural phenomenon. And the FI on this case concluded that using Occam's rule, that the simplest of two or more competing theories is preferable, and the explanation for unknown phenomenon should first be attempted in terms of what is already known. And so this FI believed that these circles were caused by high winds and downward microbursts of wind energy. And that's going to be a question I have for our guest. Is that possible? I don't know. I've never researched that, and I'm not a crop circle expert. So I just thought that would be a fun case of the week to do. Why we're talking about case of the week, though, my youngest son spent a week down there at Oshkosh, Wisconsin at the air show, and I spent some time with him, and he was showing me videos of the aeronautics and the fireworks and the shows at night. And I have to redact what I said last week on the show about that footage of Case of the Week. I think it was aircraft and fireworks. I couldn't believe some of the things they're doing now with those things. Some of the footage Tyler had looked like that video we saw last week that Bob showed. So I'm just going to say that. Well, what do you guys think of the crop circle case?
I don't know. I can't tell from those pictures, and I'm not an expert either. And obviously we do know that plenty of them are man-made, but yeah, I'm really hoping Jennifer can shed a lot of light on that.
That's the person to ask is Jennifer Stein.
Right.
She does amazing work with crop circles. Some of the stuff that she has encountered and some of the stuff that she's discovered is just far above anybody else has ever done. Her work is amazing.
That is right. And speaking of Bob, in Case of the Week last week, did you catch up with Bob this week?
I did. After coming back from his 8-week vacation, we were able to talk, and he sent this video. Amanda?
Hi, everybody. This is Bob Spearing, MUFON's Director of Investigations for International. Each week, Chris DePerno has me on to show you a video, a photo, or a drawing of something that a witness submits to the case management system, the MUFON CMS. This week, I have a very short video of a drawing. It took place in Essex, Ontario in 2013, June of 2013, and the person drew what they saw. It's a very short video. I'll let you look at what they drew. There is a plane in the upper left-hand corner of the sky, and there is another object below it. I won't say anything because I want you to zero in and look at this quick video so that you grasp all of the details. When it's over, we'll analyze it. Okay, let it play. Okay. The person was standing on the ground. They saw a plane go by, and they saw a dumbbell-shaped object connected by a tube. And we've seen this many times over many decades in ufology. Many barbell-shaped objects, they're called. This one, however, on the balls, seemed to have solar panels on it. It's a little early for drones, and it was fairly large, and it was also twirling around as if helicopter blades, but it was not twirling fast. It was It was a cylindrical tube holding two globes together, twirling slowly. The odd thing about this is that we didn't have drones in practical personal usage that much in 2013, but we did have cell phones. And the person watched this object, called their sister, and she watched it along with him. It's odd that for over 20 minutes that they saw this object, neither of them thought to take a photograph of it, which is unfortunate because if it was as pronounced an object as what they claim they saw, it would have been incredible video. I'm going to have to mark this one as an unknown only because I've seen similar cases of a similar object. There was a great story that was a cover story of the MUFON Journal back in 2015, I believe, of a similar complicated looking barbell object. These are known objects that we have in our database, and I'm going to close this one out as a unknown UAV for the time being. That's it for this week. I'd like to thank Chris for having me on as he does every week, and this is Bob Spearing signing off. Thank you.
We got an unknown.
That's what I was thinking. Yay!
That makes me really happy.
We love you, Bob.
I got to tell you, Katie, when he does a job, he does it the right way. If it's not, it isn't. But when he says it's an unknown, you can take it to the bank. And we do have lots of barbell that have been seen in the past. And there's one that I'm looking at in New York that they thought was two Tic Tacs, but it may be actual one of these barbell crafts. And they show up. They're not very often, but they do show up. All right. So anyways, Katie, what do you got for us?
Well, I have a new segment, little fun one. It's called Alien Inc. Yeah, I haven't done one of these creative segments in a while. And Alien Inc. is just what it sounds like. Amanda, can you roll it?
Oh my gosh, I love that. Yes. I wonder if Jennifer has any ink. Maybe we should bring her on and ask her.
Let's find out.
All right. So Jennifer W. Stein is best known for her award-winning 90-minute documentary film about the famous 1975 Travis Walton story. She has been an activist in the UFO community for about 20 years. As a coordinator and founding member of Mainline MUFON, which can be found at mainlinemufon.com. And it's a community educational service of the Mutual UFO Network in Pennsylvania. Jennifer serves as a state section director for MUFON in Pennsylvania. She has published articles in periodicals about the UFO phenomenon, precognition, synchronicity, and the crop circle phenomenon, as well as articles about the Travis Walton story and her documentary. Jennifer produces free monthly programming for her local public access television station and for MUFON TV, which she helped to design and establish with Ron James. So please welcome to the show, Jennifer Stein. Welcome, Jennifer. I'm so glad you're here.
It's really a treat. You guys have a lot of fun. I love it. You're not afraid to laugh a little bit at the UFO topic because we really need to,
No, Jennifer, that's what alcohol does for you.
This is water.
I haven't had any recently, but it's every once in a while. It's really good. I have to tell you, that's how I got involved in MUFON. I went to a MUFON conference and was so impressed with the people I met, and especially when I went to the bar and I started to talk to some of the, former Air Force and pilots that I had met. And they could talk to each other, but they couldn't talk openly. And when I learned their stories and I learned why they got involved in MUFON, I was so impressed. I felt, wow, if I can do anything to contribute to this field, I'd like to, because I hadn't done anything nearly as significant as they had,
awesome.
Serving their country.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Thank you to all our men and women out there serving our country. So Jennifer, I hear you have a big event coming up, I think in New York. Do you want to tell us about that and what that's all about?
I do. I was really honored this year. I was asked to come to the Lilydale group, the Lilydale Foundation. It's a whole town in northern New York, sort of just a little bit west of the Finger Lake area. And they have ongoing seminars that go all summer long. It's kind of like ongoing adult education, and it's like a spiritual community, and they deal with everything from dowsing to precognition to UFOs and crop circles. So they asked me to come with Travis Walton. So we'll be screening the Travis Walton film there for anyone who wants to attend, and that'll be on Saturday the 20th of August. Then on Sunday, the 21st, I'm doing a whole afternoon seminar, sort of in-depth on crop circles. And I'll be giving away DVDs and some books and things like that. So, people are welcome to come to that too. So it's really a very, very special event. Then if we're doing events, I can tell you I'm also going to be speaking at the Exeter Conference. Exeter, New Hampshire, every year runs a sweet little UFO conference on the weekend of Labor Day. and it's run by the local Kiwanis Club, and they raise money to give to a local charity. So it's a 2-day conference, and I'll be there speaking on sort of like what I call the history of UFOs, or UFOs 101, basic things people would want to know about the whole historical UFO topic. And what's changed? Why is it such a hot topic today? And, how did we get from denial to discovery, or denial to, disclosure, I would say, in just 70 short years, but how difficult that is for people to really wrap their brain around. So it should be an interesting presentation. So those are the two coming up right away. And then there's some others we can announce at the end of the program if you'd like.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we should have time for that. I mean, two things we obviously want to talk to you about tonight is going to be your involvement with Travis Walton, but also this crop circle stuff. We've mentioned that in the first 30 minutes. Do you have a preference which one we start with? Because maybe we can tackle them both kinds in chunks.
No, I really don't. And you did bring and show some interesting photos that Katie mentioned. So I'm happy to jump into crop circles first, because it is a rabbit hole that I continue to jump into and jump down periodically. And I don't know that I'm a world's expert on the topic, but I certainly try to, where I can, apply science, look at all the aspects. And what I think Katie was just showing to us is what we call randomly downed crop. It's not a neat, precise little formation, but you can see when you look at that picture as if there was something that literally rolled through that field. Mm-hmm. And I suspect what it is something not well understood, but I suspect it's some combination of electrostatic or electromagnetic energy that is like a huge mass, and it either rolls through the crop or it reacts. There's something reacting from some part of the atmosphere with electrical energy underneath the ground. And it heats up the crop and it distorts the crop, but it almost looks fluid, like it's a hydromagnetic fluid of some sort that rolls through that crop. And we can see hydromagnetic experiments that go on inside plasma labs. We can actually see the high-powered energy that happens just literally on the floor of a lab. And if you can extrapolate from some of the things that I show when I speak, I get people to think a little more outside the box. But I have seen, and I continue to study, what we call randomly downed crop, because we find similar odd things in the crop itself, what we call expulsion cavities and, bent nodes and blown nodes, and, odd things at the apical node of the crop, where if it's a seed head, say of wheat or of something else, like, not corn, but wheat or barley, sometimes where the seed head meets the top node, which is called the apical node, it stretches that node and curls it up. And you see this again and again. You find it in randomly down crop, and you find it in crop circles. Wow. So I think there's an overlap. I call it an energy signature. Okay. Something happened to that crop.
Right.
If it was wind, it would stand back up. Right.
Right. I was going to say, is the energy signal is different than like what a dust devil would do? Because you see dust devils out there, in Kansas, Nebraska.
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. Like a dust devil would roll the crop around, but it wouldn't bend its nodes, and it wouldn't stay bent down.
Interesting.
And what these energy signatures look like is you can almost see the pattern or the wave through the crop, the way it's laying. And it makes you think that there was almost like a flood that moved through there. Like if a stream had overflowed and washed through that and brought mud and things like that, you would see a similar magnetic flow, or hydromagnetic flow is what I call it.
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer, you have, I'm just fascinated with your work with crop circles. Where do you find most of the crop circles now? Because up in New York, I have never investigated one here in New York. New York, to my knowledge, has never had one in years. And do you see more in the United States? Do you see more in England? Where do you see the most of the crop circles?
Well, there is certainly a majority of them in some key places in the world. And what I have discovered, and really which I shouldn't say I've discovered, some of the mainstream researchers that I have followed and studied with, like Glenn, I think his name is Borgen, and Nancy Talbot, and also Linda Howe, have well established is that areas that have large, what we refer to as green sand aquifers or natural limestone in the soil, areas where there's large amounts of that, you have an increased number of formations happening. And
these places aren't just random, right, Jennifer?
No, it's geology. It's major geologic structures that can cover, vast areas. So in the United States, we have a massive green sand aquifer and a large amount of limestone in the soil that stretches through parts of Ontario, northern Ontario, like from Peterborough, Ontario, maybe straight down under some of the Great Lakes, under Lake Ontario, out near Lake Huron, and down under parts of tips of New York and Ohio and Wisconsin. So there is areas like this. And in England, there is a huge green sand aquifer that stretches from Dover straight through to Glastonbury. And it's like 25, 35 miles wide. And we have the most amount of crop circles, I think, in the world that I know of, happen along the edges of that aquifer. So what is it about the edges of that aquifer that bring formations year after year after year?
Could it be the water, Jennifer?
Well, when water percolates through limestone, it strips electrons off those water molecules and it makes ions, which are more electrically dynamic, right? Because they're looking for an electron to bond with, right? So they're more electrically charged. And yes, along the edges of the aquifer is where the charge is going to build up most and fastest during the heat of the summer, because as the heat comes on, the water percolates further and further down into the soil as it evaporates, right? Building up more and more of a charge down along the edges of that aquifer. So as the edges of the aquifer come in, the formations come in. Now, there's also something else that's very dynamic that we see as a repeating pattern, and it's about every 11 years. There are high amounts of solar flares that kind of tend to go up and go down and go up and go down. And we know that the sun has this fluctuating facility that goes on. And as we measure that and we correlate sun flares and high amounts of, highly charged particles coming down into our atmosphere, we have large amounts of formations happening. And it's happening this year. We've had huge solar flares happening. People who follow, sun activity realize we've been up around 25, 35,000. I don't know what exactly that number refers to, but it's the highly charged particles coming down into our atmosphere that's alarming, because we can't maintain that for long periods of time. But we've been spiking at very, very high levels. And people who follow the sun, who are astronomers and, sun specialists and, meteorologists and things that look at this, they are tracking it. And the crop circles have been following suit. There's been a huge number of crop circles this summer in England. So, wow. And I suspect there have been a number in the United States too, although I keep track. I'm a member of what's called ICCRA, which is the International Crop Circle Researchers Association, formed by Jeff Wilson. We're not totally always active all the time, but when there are formations that are reported, depending on who lives closest to it, we kind of call around and email and text one another and say, hey, who can get out there and do some research? And we look for certain characteristics like, expulsion cavities, blown nodes. We take magnets into the soil and dig up the soil and see whether or not it sticks to a magnet. If you go out in your backyard and dig up your soil, it's probably not going to be magnetic. But you walk in a crop circle or a randomly downed crop as well, you're going to find magnetic soil.
Well, I want to jump in. Oh God, I have a million questions. This is bringing up so much in my head, but I know right now we're bound to have some viewers going, yes, but we know some are man-made.
Though absolutely
we do.
they are.
But what can we? But in a way that can be useful for research too.
It's
right?
perfect. Yes, bingo. Yeah. Bright, Katie Cook. Yes, you're absolutely right. And that's exactly what I talk about when I speak. I say, look, there are man-made formations and they're perfect because we can film people making them. We can see how they make them. We can go out and test the soil. We can look for blown nodes and expulsion cavities. And we don't find them in man-made ones, except, which has happened, when there's like this little addition to a man-made formation, which is really weird that the hoaxers didn't make, the advertisers didn't make, but presto, it's there.
Can I dive in and say, Amanda, we have a really fascinating picture of a grasshopper. Now, unless there's some real sicko people out there making crop circles doing this, I mean, this is the kind of evidence you look for to say, this is not somebody with a stick and a board and a design in mind, right?
Yes, exactly. What the hell does this?
Yeah,
right?
Wow.
And we find things like this again and again. Sometimes you'll find a whole group of flies and they're sitting on a wheat stalk, but you shake it and the flies don't fly away. They are literally cooked onto. And this grasshopper is melted. So you find things like this. Sometimes you find mice, or even I've heard of porcupines and things like that are like microwaved, like hard cooked. You can put them under a microscope. You could cut them open and put them under a microscope, and it looks like they've been cooked.
Wow. Like radiated. So on the edges of these, did you call them aquifers? Aquifers?
Yeah.
Have you seen it? I can't think of the name of the book, but it's that book. And I've always wondered about this with crop circles. It's that water, when you vibrate water with energy and that it makes the shapes.
Cymatics. Maybe you're speaking about cymatics. Yes.
Could that happen?
Well, possibly, yes. A lot of people have really looked at cymatics, as I have, because that is basically sound waves. And you can penetrate sound waves through any type of liquid medium. It could be paint, or talcum powder, or, other ingredients, flour, rice, things like that, sand. Yeah. And when it's on a particular sheath, a metal sheath or a drum, certain vibratory tones are going to create certain amazing geometric patterns. And this is a well-known fact and really a fascinating one. The other thing that's also fascinating is how iron filings alone will respond to sound. They will also form shapes and actually move in shapes, like move in mushroom shapes or toroidal shapes, where they're actively vibrating in a toroidal shape from a certain tone. So many people who have looked at the crop circles have tried to decipher the geometries based on tonalities that they experiment with in these different mediums. Whether or not there is a hertz overlap, like, a frequency, we suspect there is, because all of the world is vibrational. Every single thing that exists is vibrational. The way our bodies form in the womb, it's probably a result of some sort of vibrational frequency that's unfolding. We've all seen the eddies that unfold, and we've studied our ears and the structure of our bodies, and our lungs and our intestines are eddies that expand from a similar, chord in our body. So we know everything is vibrational frequency. Even things like emotions and consciousness may very well be too. So many people try to draw the link as well between, is there a conscious vibratory state of mind or frequency? Because many people have had precognitions about formations, or asked for specific formations, or had meditations on specific formations, and then they have appeared. So how do you make sense of that?
Right.
I don't think we have the language quite yet and the science quite yet to make sense of it. But because we don't understand it, doesn't mean it's not happening. It's freaking right in front of us, right? All you have to do is walk into a crop circle and go, excuse my French, but how the did this get here? Right?
I love you.
You know, I have a ton of questions.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's what's so mind-blowing about this phenomenon. Even a randomly down formation, you can walk into and just like you're just in total like amazement, like it wasn't here yesterday, and how did this happen?
Right.
I have a ton of questions for you, but I know Katie Cook is chomping at the bits.
It's okay.
Oh, are you going to let me go? Do I get a pass?
Yeah, I'm gonna pass.
I love bright women. I love it.
Okay.
Hey,
I mean,
I've been praising you all night, and you say that. What about me?
No. I didn't say you weren't bright, Chris. You know I admire you.
Well, speaking of bright women, you mentioned Nancy Talbot from BLT Research, who I adored. We have a picture of Nancy. I'd love to put her up if you can find that, Amanda. She, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, claimed to have actually been in a crop circle as it started to form. I feel like I heard her talk about that years ago.
Yes, she has. Yes,
and she also worked with, was it Robert Vanderbroek? Am I saying his name right?
Yes.
And he used to get the, he used to know when a crop formation was going to be formed. Yeah. Could you talk a little bit about, we've got, I think, maybe 5 minutes till break, but do you mind just touching on that? Because I thought that was fascinating work.
I have huge amounts of respect for Nancy, and I have worked with her. I have studied with her. One of my first trips when I went to England, I got to meet her and go and study an amazing formation. Many people refer to it as the grid, and it was like a computer grid, and there was also a heart in the same field. It was a man-made formation for a wedding. And when the couple showed up the weekend to get married in the formation they had made Thursday, the farmer was furious and said, I gave you permission to make one, not two formations. And this thing happened overnight. And it was twice the size of the heart. It was very complex, looked like a computer grid. So long story short, Nancy has worked in a scientific lab in Cambridge for most of her life when she was professionally working. And she really understands scientific methodology. And she worked closely also with Dr. Levengood. Well, we refer to him as Dr. Levengood, but really he was a biophysicist, and he actually did not have a PhD, although he had done all the work for his PhD, which few people know. And that's a lovely picture of him. I had a lot of respect for William Levengood, and so does Jeff Wilson, who worked very closely with him too. So did Linda Howe. Many of these people worked with William Levengood. So long story short, Nancy arranged for funding, started BLT Research, which stands for Levengood, Talbot, her name, and another gentleman named John Burke, who has now since passed away, who studied geomancy, and he was a geologist and knew a lot about earth sciences. So the three of them put their heads together. They raised significant money, did the largest study that ever happened with funding from the Rockefeller Foundation, and made the beginning clue to understand that maybe something is happening from the bottom up and not from the top down in crop circles. Yeah. And it's really incredible research. They spent over $100,000 doing it and verified it, sent it to labs, multiple places. And I speak about that when I present. And that still to this day is some of the best peer-reviewed literature and research on crop circles, in my opinion. So I have a huge amount of respect for Nancy, and we've, have a friendship. We have a relationship back and forth. I've done some film work with her and whatnot, and she's still up in the Boston area. I'd like to get to see her again, although I don't know when I will, but I'd like to.
Hey, okay. So one of the things you taught me before when we talked years ago as a young field investigator, one of the things you mentioned is, Chris, when you go investigate a crop circle, and I tell my people under me if we ever get one, is your cell phone is affected by it, correct?
Yes, it can be. It's amazing.
Yeah. Explain about the cell phone and the earth. I mean, you had told me, Chris, take a sample of the dirt, the earth, take a sample of the wheat, see if it's there, magnetic, and take a sample outside the circle, because you're going to see a difference between the dirt and the two dirts, and you're going to see a difference between the wheat that's in the crop circle and the wheat that's outside, and your cell phone. Those are three things that you said that will tell you if this is the real deal, besides the insects being molded into the
That's
wheat.
Right. Yes, that's right. These are all things. So I don't know how long we have before we go to break.
About 3 minutes.
All right, well, let's save it until after the break, okay? And now,
yeah, it might be a little harder to just, condense that all in, but you're absolutely right. There are things that you look for. Yeah.
And stuff. Why I got to tell you, well, folks, let me tell you this. When I was a young whippersnapper trying to make a name for myself as a field investigator, people like Jennifer Stein were teaching me different things about crop circles and about Travis Walton. And the other thing is, we got to get into Travis Walton because there's amazing things that you discovered that people don't even know about until you made your second documentary. I remember going to Peter Robbins' house to be able to do. Was I ever in that movie?
We, you know what, with the onset of COVID,
I didn't make the cut.
We are still editing, a second version. And
are you sure? Because I bought 100 photos of myself so I could sign after your documentary.
You'll get.
And my wife wants to burn them.
It's all right.
So,
I hope it'll come out.
Please put me in one of them so I can at least sign an autograph to myself, so I can say, "Hey, I go to the sleazy diner that I go to. I can sign it and put it on the wall."
That's funny,
or something like that. Yeah. But I mean, it's an amazing documentary. All kidding aside, folks, it's an amazing documentary. She puts her heart and soul into this Travis Walton thing because it's one of the most amazing, absolutely amazing abductions. So, I got to tell you, if there's one thing you got to watch is this Travis Walton movie. You will be absolutely amazed because there is so much new stuff that is going on. So
That's right.
Make sure, and we're going to get into Travis on the second part of the show because there's been some controversy about it. Yeah. There's been new stuff. He wanted to go toe-to-toe with some of the aliens that he couldn't communicate with. And that's a more important thing because some of the aliens couldn't communicate with him. Am I correct on that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We don't actually know exactly, but we have Travis's on board the craft experiences, which are quite incredible. And it's speculation to know exactly what was, to a certain extent, what was going on. But they did not communicate with him. Whether they could not or they chose deliberately not to, we don't know.
So, all good stuff. We'll jump after the break. Yeah, everybody hang in there. I just kept thinking about the vibration. I must have been done to some hard rock and roll or something. That's my excuse. But anyway, hang in there with us, everybody, and we'll see you after the break.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
MUFON is the voice of thousands of like-minded people who want to see change. We speak up against UFO secrecy. We engage governments and agencies around the world on the topic. We share information with the public through our journal, website, newsletter, social media, and even our own TV channel. When you join MUFON, you add your voice to the cause. Few things are more important in our time than understanding the UFO question. Join MUFON. Find your friends.
Hi, I'm Austin Butler from Baz Luhrmann's new film, Elvis.
Tomorrow, all of America will be talking about Elvis Presley.
As a blood donor himself, Elvis shared the gift of life with patients in need and asked others to do the same. We're encouraging you to give blood this summer. Please visit redcrossblood.org/Elvis movie today to learn more.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
Yeah.
Back. Right. We always dance, Jennifer, when we come back.
It's great.
It's just going.
Good music.
So, yeah.
These
Jennifer,
brilliant women.
Yeah. I've been doing some dancing lately too with some friends in Philly, so I love it.
Good for you.
Yeah. So Jennifer, take us back to like some tips for field investigator about the cell phone and what are the things we look for.
Yeah.
If
Okay.
we get one recorded in our state.
That's really important because cell phones, especially these days, many people can download just even an app that tells you directions like north, east, south, and west. And if you have one of those apps and you walk into a cell phone, you walk into a crop circle with your cell phone, very often that function won't work.
Oh, wow.
It will start to spin, or it'll say you're near a magnetic anomaly and please move your phone around in a figure 8, or back away from the magnetic disturbance to get your phone to work. Now, I've had this situation where I've just been on a phone call because I'm trying to coordinate a bunch of stuff when I'm on a trip or I'm filming, or we're trying to say we're going to meet up in a pub or we're going to have dinner and whatnot. And I'm getting addresses while I'm walking into a field. And sure enough, the call drops off as soon as I walk into the formation. And I go up, and I back up, and the call comes back. And all you can stand out there. And if you have bars on your phone, which you can see, you move your hand in and you move your hand out. And it's like, the bars disappear when you move inside the formation. And this happens when the formation is often very fresh or brand new, and it tends to dissipate over time. Now, I have also had camera malfunctions. I've set down a very expensive camera that was a tape camera in the days when we still filmed with tape. So I had 2 heads that had to spin at the same speed, in this camera. And once I picked the camera back up, I set the camera down so I could use a small digital camera back in the early 2000s and snap a bunch of pictures. And then I picked my video camera back up to start to film again. And sure enough, that damn thing wouldn't do anything but be snow. I turned it on and it looked like a black and white TV that I couldn't tune in. And I could feel the engine grinding in the camera. Then when it started to function again, it only filmed in black and white, which was really weird. And then I sent it away to get fixed, and they fixed it 4 times, and the heads didn't spin at the same speed anymore. They finally just replaced the camera because they couldn't fix it. It was a Sony camera. So I've heard of all these types of malfunctions that people have had. People sometimes go into a crop circle with their wallet, like in their back pocket, especially guys, and they stretch out in a field, they go to sleep, they have a nice, like a afternoon in the sun in a crop circle. Then they go to the pub that night, or they go to check out of their Airbnb, and their credit cards don't work because the magnetic strip has been demagnetized. And that's not an easy thing to deal with.
No,
you can't get cash out of the cash machine.
Why would anybody want to sleep in a crop circle?
People do it all the time. People walk in and just, dogs are playing, kids are running around, people are meeting. It's like one of these friends of mine, Andreas Mueller, and some of his friends from Germany used to say that crop circles are like these cosmic flowers, right? they attract these bees, which are people who are curious about this phenomenon, especially in England. You walk into a crop circle and you can meet somebody from India or China or Japan or, South America or, Canada. And it's just like from all over. And you start into these conversations and like people get excited and they're trying to understand the geometry, and somebody's in there filming it with a drone these days from above, or people have pictures of it from above. And then you go back to your communities wherever you came from and you're sharing the excitement of this phenomenon. So they're kind of like, people used to say the crop circles are like the conscious flowers that are waking the planet up. That people from all over the world were coming together to study them for a good 20 years. And those people were forever changed because of it.
Yeah. I find it really amazing that you mentioned this spinning compass, because last week on our show we had James Keenan and we were talking about strangeness areas and and missing 411 with David Pilates, and he was saying in some of these areas where there's suspected maybe portals that the compass will spin in these areas. So I'm making connections here. This is really fascinating. Have you heard that before? And same with the missing people. I mean, what's going on here?
I know. I adore James. He's one of my new best friends. And I've also just recently been to Blind Frog Ranch, which he's doing a lot of study on. So we have great, and I think there's a new television show actually he's being part of. So new great things coming out of Utah, Eastern Utah.
Yeah. It's such a, oh, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's just like there's more areas than just what we know of from Skinwalker Ranch. I mean, it's not all the same type of energies, as Katie has been presented beautifully on as well, her childhood experiences in Colorado. So there's lots of strange anomalies going on in the world, aren't there?
Big time. And one of the joys of this show is week to week, how we can like, wow, that just came up last week. Like Katie was just saying. And it does. It seems like a synchronicity. It doesn't seem random. When you're talking about walking in with a cell phone and walking out, in my head, I'm like, you put your cell phone in.
A cell phone out. You put your cell phone in and you shake it all about.
And I was thinking, what a good excuse. Like, baby, I'd love to buy you dinner, but I napped in a crop circle. I'm like,
I did. Right. That's right.
It's on you.
I do.
I'm using that excuse. I'll tell you right now.
Hooking you up, Christopher.
Eating chips by Katie Cook.
Right. I got your back. Before we move on to Travis, because I know everybody wants to talk about that, but I'm just curious. We always think of crop circles, at least I do, as a pretty new phenomenon. But is there evidence to suggest that this could have been going on even centuries ago? I don't know.
Bingo. Yes. Native Americans wrote about formations happening, and even Shakespeare wrote about them. He called them in his literature fairy rings, or the mark of the mowing devil. There's a very famous woodblock that I show when I present, and it's a picture of this what looks like a little alien or a little devil in the field walking around with like a hatchet of some sort. And he is apparently, it looks like he's cutting the crop. But this woodblock appeared in an article that this wonderful man in England named Andy Thomas dug up. It's in the British archives. It's like a parish pamphlet. So in the 1600s, like the local paper was written by your local parish, right? Your local church. And in this article, there was a story about how on August 26th, 1867, people were observing at night like odd orbs of light above the field, like the sky was ablaze above the field the night before. And the next morning, there was this downed crop. And the farmer who wrote the article that the woodblock accompanied said, darn, that damn devil, why didn't he just take the crop with him? Why did he just knock the crop down? Because now I can't harvest it. And it creates mildew in the crop. It attracts slugs. It becomes a mess in the field. So for farmers, especially farmers harvesting by hand, as they were probably doing in the 1600s, it just was a nuisance. And this particular farmer had it happen many times. And he was angry, and he was going to the parish, to the church to report this. So I think it's fascinating. And the fact that it's mentioned in Shakespeare's literature, so it was happening. I've actually talked to a lot of people, many now passed away, but people who lived in England. And when they were growing up, they were pushed out of London because of the Blitz in the Second World War. And they were pushed into the Wiltshire and Bath and Cogswolds areas, just an hour west of London for safety, right? Because London was being bombed. And they talked about playing in crop circles as children and how they saw them and found them, even in the 30s and 40s. So 30s, 40s, 50s. So
I think I just found the wood block. Is it this?
That's it. You got it. And if you look at the bottom, it's 1678. Look at the date. It's August 22nd. That's the name of the town, Leisfeld, Linsfeld or something. August 22nd, 1678. Now, what's also very interesting is eyewitnesses, when they see a crop fall, they have seen it fall in this pattern. That's depicted in this crop circle. It's almost like from the inside out, it spirals and the crop just like lays down. It wiggles and then it lays down like a domino very quickly. So there's been a number of eyewitnesses. Gary King is one of them, and also Nancy Talbot. There's been a number of eyewitnesses. Ken Keyes in the United States is an eyewitness, and that's how they describe seeing it. They also see steam coming off the crop. Wow. Which we know is probably what's happening. That's what creates the expulsion cavities, because the liquid inside the stem of the crop heats up, and then it has to burst out, or it wants to expand the most water-filled areas of the crop, which are the nodes, which have the most amount of liquid. And many times those explode because of steam, and it makes a particular expulsion cavity. Sometimes you can see right through the damn thing, or you could thread a needle through it, So
Jennifer.
Yep.
Jennifer, I wanted to add, there's something I saw in the chat room. One of the people in the chat room asked about, the word flavor of the month is frequencies. Everybody's talking about frequencies now because they're discovering that. How about radiation, though? Are we finding radiation in these crop circles? Because we know people are getting physically ill when they come in contact with aliens or alien crafts. Is there any residue radiation from the crop circles?
Not that I know of. And I have not taken a tri-field meter reader out there with me because usually I've been in England studying them. But Jeff Wilson often looks for things like that. And he has not tracked large amounts of radiation that I am aware of. But I would encourage people to continue to research and look at the ICCRA website, where they can email Jeff Wilson directly through it. He's really the expert on that topic and could address it more than I could. I know about electromagnetic or static energy, but not radiation. That's a different type of measurement, different type of frequency interference, and definitely cell damaging. So we want to stay away.
Has anybody that's been in a crop circle had gone ill, have ill effects from it?
Some people do right after they have formed. They feel dizzy. They feel unsettled. They feel nauseous. So there have been some people who have reported that, but usually after the energy dissipates within the first 5 hours to 1 or 2 days, then it's like this joyous thing that they just want to soak up. It's kind of like sunshine. And there are people that have claimed that they've had healings inside formations. Like literally they've had skin lesions or, I think it was one person who claimed they had some leprosy on their hands, and they were in a crop circle with their hands down on the ground. And when they got up and left, the leprosy literally just fell off of them.
Wow.
So there are people who have claimed that they've gotten, healing effects from them.
Yeah. So Jennifer, before we get to Travis, I have just a couple quick little questions. What is one of your favorite formations? And what about that? I think it's the Arecibo message, that there was a
Yes.
message. Can you talk about that? And was that man-made? Do you think that was genuine? And can you tell our listeners what that was?
Yes. So people who know, or some people know or don't know, what the Arecibo message was that Carl Sagan was responsible for inventing, actually. It was they were trying to raise money for Arecibo in Puerto Rico, and they sent up a digital frequency message, like they broadcasted out a binary code message about the Earth. And it was a series, like a long series. They called it a code. The bottom of it showed the solar systems that were here. And one of those planets was raised, denoting the humans, us, lived on them. And then right above the raised Earth was a digital, like, graphic of our bodies, our average size and height. There was a digital binary code next to that that depicted our population. Above that was a code that denoted natural organic materials that make up life. It's referred to as PONCH, but it stands for things like potassium, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, things that make up natural life. And then there was a number counting system. So Carl Sagan came up with this and sent this out, transmitted it out. And there was this joke going on at the time that it would be, 50 years before some planet would receive it and then be able to send back a digital message, right? Mm-hmm. So it would be 25 years to get there and then 25 years for them to send back a message. So at the 25-year mark from where we sent up that message, in Chilbolton, England, right where we have large dish satellites listening for radio signals coming from outer space, right out in front of where people would go into work, right across the parking lot, but right by the windows where people can look out right over the tops of their computers, right, was this code that seemed to appear in the field. And it seemed to be an answer to the Arecibo message, which was very strange. So no one knew what it was from the ground. People even flew over it and photographed it, and they were very confused. Only one person figured it out, a very bright man who's no longer with us, named Paul Vigay. And Paul looked at it and went, "That reminds me of the Arecibo message." And then he popped it up. And another guy named Jay Goldner actually wrote a wonderful little book about it called The Code. And they compared them side by side. And it really did seem to appear to be some sort of message.
And is that genuine? I mean, yeah.
As I understand it from the people that I know who were there that year, who researched it, that formation had all the telltale signs that you would expect in what we call an authentic formation. Wow. It appeared overnight. It appeared, laid out in its own perfection, sort of. It didn't sort of appear in stages, although some formations have appeared in stages that still seem to appear genuine. Formations have appeared and then had things added to them. Sometimes there are even repeating themes from year to year that get repeated. And this is true in the code from Arecibo that you mentioned, because the year before the code appeared, the very bottom of this rectangular code had, in the message that Carl Sagan sent up, it had a digital pictogram image of Arecibo. If you were going to draw or describe what Arecibo looked like as a sending device, right? As a sending machine of some sort. And in the field in Chilbolton, where the code appeared, the prior year to the code, there was this amazing geometry that appeared. Nobody quite knew what it meant. But the following year, it appeared as part of the code in the same field. And suddenly, people hit their head and went, "Oh my God, okay." They're describing the sending device that they are using to send this information. If, say, these crop circles are partially generated by a combination of consciousness or ETs trying to communicate with us, as many, many, many people believe. Now, I can't prove that. I tend to stay as grounded as I can as a MUFON investigator because we look for hardcore evidence. How can we apply science to this? Is there a scientific explanation? Can we use science to describe the phenomenon that makes us realize we are looking at phenomenon, because it would be impossible otherwise to describe it scientifically. Right. So I don't necessarily go off when I speak and say, oh, yes, it's aliens and they're communicating with us and they're reaching our consciousness and they're shifting our consciousness. You know, there are some speakers who will say that.
Right.
It's a speculation. I can't prove that, but I've had lots of weird conscious experiences in my life. And I'm actually currently working on a film about consciousness with Bob Davis called The Consciousness Connection. We've got a little trailer out there. People can go Google it. But, you know, there's lots of odd things that we don't yet fully know how to language or understand that deals with consciousness and happens to deal with odd phenomenon and certainly deals with ET interaction and UFO interaction. And that's undeniable. And I think that that's also something MUFON needs to continue to take seriously in research. I know there are some state section directors and some state chief investigators that are afraid that we should never consider phenomenon or dip our toe into it because we can't prove anything about it. But if we don't look at all the facts, then we're choosing to only study half the phenomenon. So
amen.
That's my message to MUFON for those people who are listening. My polite message.
Yeah, it was pretty polite.
Yep.
So I guess we go on to Travis now that I've jumped.
Katie,
I think it's time.
Katie. Are you muted, Katie? I don't know.
She's muted. I can't hear her.
I can't hear her either. Yeah, let's go ahead and move on into Travis Walton. If you want to talk to us about, you know, your project with that and what's happening with that.
Well, it's so interesting. Travis and I are actually going to see each other soon next week. I told him I'll have coffee with him on Thursday morning. We'll both be in Lilydale together.
Nice.
He's also another person that's really changed my life, and I have so much respect and admiration for Travis.
He's a great guy.
He really didn't want to have this experience, and he really didn't want his life to be all about being this guy that was abducted. And the more you get to know Travis, as I feel very lucky that I have, you recognize his humility and his patience and his dedication to this field. That's why I ended up deciding that I could make a unique contribution by making a quality documentary about his story, because for some reason, no one had. And Hollywood made a great film, but they fictionalized it. That was called Fire in the Sky. So this is the graphic you're seeing right now. It's a wonderful graphic made by a fabulous artist in California. And he granted me permission. I purchased permission to use this, and he did it specifically for Travis because he was so moved by Travis's story. So most of the public, I would imagine most of the people who would be watching this show know the specific details of the Travis story. So we don't need to unpack them. But I will tell you that in recent months, as you're all well aware, about a year ago this time, maybe even about 2 years ago this time, some major debunking efforts reappeared. It's almost like Philip Glass was reborn or came back. And really, the people who were debunking it were using Philip Glass materials. So I think they were being probably fed those materials, or someone had gone into the archives and dug up materials and were trying to respin and then make even more confused some of the aspects around the Travis Walton case. And it didn't take me long to look at some of the footage that was being put up online by a so-called new filmmaker who was going to make a movie. And I was pretty clear that he was manipulating the public to believe that there was a fire tower near where this event took place, and it wasn't. It was 5 miles away. But his first theory he came up with and really kind of shocked the world, got everyone to believe, it was really a fire tower with a light coming down from a fire tower, until a couple of us popped online and said, that's 5 miles away. It's rolling hills. Couldn't really be, plus I had drone footage. I immediately popped up online and said, here, guys, look at this. Like, I have a website for the film called TravisWaltonTheMovie.com. So I dedicated a whole page on the website to all the debunking that was going on. So people could go to the debunking link and go, oh, well, there's drone footage from the site. You can see the drone go up. You can see it spin around. There ain't no fire tower that you can see with a drone that's, 100 feet above the site where the craft actually appeared. So, there were lots of little things that made the world pay much more attention to the Travis Walton story last year. So, what we ended up doing last November is ever since we launched the film, which was for the 40th anniversary of the Travis Walton event, every year since then, we have tried to do a screening or an event or something in line with the Travis Walton story on November 5th. So sometimes we did a conference on the East Coast, or we did a conference on the West Coast, and we did one right in Heber. We did one for the 39th anniversary and the 40th anniversary right in Heber, Arizona. And we called that the Skyfire Summit. Then we did like a Skyfire Summit on the West Coast with Ron James. Then we did one on the East Coast. Then we did one at some MUFON symposiums. This coming year, we may be screening the film. And Travis, I've texted a little bit with him, so if he's listening, he can see the Arizona Historical Society where MUFON Phoenix meets. They may want to do a screening of it on the actual Saturday, November 5th, because it's a Saturday, and Travis may come down, and so we may do a screening there. But a year ago, we did it online. We did a massive international conference and had Tracy Torme, other filmmakers, all the other loggers, people who've been on the site, and we just check mark, picked apart all the debunking issues and put them to rest.
I wanted to make a comment on all that with Phil Klass and all that. So in MUFON's Pandora files, the archives, I came across the original, Travis Walton file, and it was more than 365 some pages. And Travis and I went and got a flash drive, and I gave that right to Travis. And I read through, word for word, all those documents, and you can very easily pick apart all these horrible things that these people have been saying about him. I mean, Travis is as genuine as you get, and this has been going on for so long. And this case is just one of the best abduction cases there are out there. So I just wanted to say that personally, reading all through those documents, it's ludicrous what's happened. And it's really it kind of upsets me quite a bit that people went after him and attacked him like that.
Well, thank you. Thank you for mentioning archives, Katie, because as researchers, I think that's very important. And I was very lucky to sort of be mentored a bit by Stanton Friedman. Stanton did one of the very first documentaries that nobody ever saw because it was never launched. It was called, Overlords of the UFOs, I think is what it was called. And it was like a B quality documentary. And it covered the Betty and Barney Hill story. It covered Wendell Stevens and the Travis Walton story. And it was produced in 1978. So I actually originally negotiated and thought I had agreements to license some of this footage from that producer. And Stanton was a writer on that production. So he kind of immediately stepped up and agreed to be like, an associate or, executive producer with me. And he really guided me. So we went to the archives in the Philosophical Society in Philadelphia with Kathy Martin, because they were working on a book and they were researching Philip Klass and his interactions with the Hills, of course, Kathy's aunt and uncle. So we dug up the Philip Klass files, and I read all the things that related to the Travis Walton case because I was working on the film. Yeah. And it took us a couple days, to be there. But it is really fascinating. And I really credit not only Travis, but I credit at the time, the spokesperson for the crew was really Mike Rogers. And he's the one that had to freaking write letters for 15 years back and forth with Phil Klass. And he held Phil Klass's feet to the fire many times, very articulately. But because this story was debunked, these boys had to find a way to mature into dealing with nasty debunkers and know what the firm ground was under them. And by making the Travis Walton film, I was able to capture interviews with living people who are now passed away. And I'm so glad I did. We got Cy Gilson on film. He was the polygraph expert. We also got Marlon Gillespie on film, and he was the chief investigator at the Holbrook Police Office. He was the sheriff at the time. And I've also now, for the second version of the film that Chris mentioned, I made, this sort of was like a 45th anniversary revision I had to make because I had to buy new archival footage because I couldn't sell the first film because I kind of got screwed on the negotiations deal with the first archive footage I bought. So I had to remake the film, and I improved it, and I put in Deputy Ellison and some other people I got to interview. So
you've done an amazing job. And I'll tell you this right now, there's some new stuff in this film that have never been released before. And I want to talk about one of those things, the Tic Tacs. Everybody was talking about the Tic Tacs. The Tic Tacs, Commander Fravor saw a Tic Tac, Kevin Daig saw a Tic Tac. But Travis Walton, before you ever heard those names, saw a whole bunch of Tic Tacs in a bay.
He probably did. That's
Can you
right.
explain about that part of the abduction scenario, about the ship? And because it was a mothership, because there was a whole bunch of ships that
in fact, for your listening audience, I will just mention as well, if you go to TravisWaltonTheMovie.com and you scroll through the debunking page, there will be a video that's there that is it's a reenactment of exactly what happened to Travis on board that craft. And people may want to go and refer to that. So I'll just mention that they can. But during the period of time where Travis walks off this disc-shaped craft that he's on, being led by what he thinks is an astronaut. He thought somebody from NASA had come to rescue him because this person looked
NASA.
human. He thought he was being rescued, and they walked.
You got to say it right,
off
Jennifer.
Ramp.
NASA.
NASA. Okay. So he gets walked off this craft being led by this person with a helmet on that's not talking to him. He gets walked across what he describes as an indoor tarmac. The craft he was probably saw in the woods, he walks off of. And then there's these other 5 or 6 craft that are sitting there, larger than the craft he walks off of. He described them as shiny eggs, reflecting the ceiling and the floor. Now that sounds like a Tic Tac to me.
Absolutely.
He didn't have the term Tic Tac. That Tic Tac didn't exist when, I think that product only came out in the year 2000 or something as a breath mint. But a shiny egg pretty much sounds like a Tic Tac to me. And this was 1975.
And there's a whole bay of them, right?
I mean, 5 or 6. He could see them stacked behind each other. They were all like at the other end of this like indoor hangar. He thought it was like an airplane hangar he was in, except it wasn't completely rounded like we think of as a hangar. It was half rounded. So it was like a curved bay of some sort, but he was only in like a quarter of it. So there was, a rounded ceiling that came down and then a flat wall with doors that opened, and he got off of a craft, walked across his hangar, and then walked in through some doors. And as he walked, he saw what were probably Tic Tacs. So there are many aspects to Travis's story that, we didn't hear it a lot about. He was the first, he ran into 2 species of beings, right? Whether one was human and one was not, we don't know. We think one was a gray from his description. It sounded very much like a gray, but not a lot of people were talking about grays in 1975. So his was a very early case of this. And some other unusual aspects of his case is that he was freaking missing for 5 days.
Right.
There was major search and rescue people out looking for him. Helicopters, people on horseback, people on foot, people with dogs, with his clothing, sniffing, looking for him. He was nowhere to be found in 30, 40 mile radius.
Can you talk a little bit about how Travis, I mean, I know you can't speak for Travis, but I know he's kind of publicly talked about his feelings about Fire in the Sky and, how that was sensationalized, and in fact, maybe that's why he created that second movie. Is that correct, Jennifer?
Well, I really talked Travis into doing the second movie. I had to kind of gain Travis's trust. And myself as the producer, I had to basically pull together all the creative ability and the financing to do this. And it was a 5-year project. I mean, and it kind of started on a whim, actually. I didn't actually start out thinking I was going to make a documentary. I thought I was going to start to help him coordinate a conference, because that's what Peter Robbins and I suggested to him one year in Roswell. We said, your event is just as important as the Roswell event, and it's a lot newer. Why don't you do a conference in Snowflake or Heber or something? And it could end up being a really major economic impact to your area. Why don't you, talk to the Chamber of Commerce, see if they'll work with you, because now in Roswell, like the mayors and the governors get behind this conference, and, they've built major new hotels, and it's a real economic boom to the town of Roswell. So we threw that out as an idea. And in the process of planning the conference, it occurred to me that what are we going to do if it snows and Travis wants to take all these people up into the forest to show them the site, but we can't get vehicles there? Or what if, and he wanted to take people there at night. And I'm thinking, I don't know. There's bears and coyotes and snakes, and, some people can't walk. They have, some people have canes. You're going to take them and have them stepping over logs in the dark. I was, as a conference coordinator and an event coordinator, I've run MUFON conferences and things like that. As the symposium director, I'm thinking, this sounds like an insurance nightmare. So then I thought, well, we should probably capsulize some of your story as part of like a video, so that we could show that at the conference, because that's safer. You have everybody in chairs, it's air conditioned, nobody's going to go missing and get eaten by a bear because they couldn't find a proper place to, take a leak behind a tree. I was worried people would go off and get lost, especially if it was dark. So that's kind of how this film developed. I started archiving interviews. I made a couple trips out there. I met, various members of the crew and sat them down and interviewed them, and interviewed Travis and interviewed some UFO experts on the topic, and did an interview with Stanton and a few other people. And then I began to realize that this was a significant film that needed to be made, and nobody had ever made one. And Paramount really fictionalized the story. So people think they know the story, but they don't. And they don't really know the human side of the story. So that's why I thought I should really do this film. And about 2.5, 3 years into the project, I realized the significance of the body of the material that I had. And I started editing with my eyes closed, is what I say. I started listening for the deeper story, and listening for the human story and the heartfelt story that was there.
Right.
And I think that's why this film did so well in mainstream film festivals, because usually UFO documentaries don't even get accepted in mainstream film festivals. They just that's not our genre, or they don't have a genre, for that. But because this was a true story, because it actually happened, because there was facts and documents to back it up. And when they got the film, it had a nice write-up to it. I spent the money and the time and the effort to promote it. Mainstream film festivals said, well, let's just watch this. We don't really have a UFO category, but it's a documentary. So let's just watch it. And I would get phone calls from these people. I didn't know who they were. And they were like, we really liked your film.
That's awesome.
Nobody ever did a film like this before. And so it made it into 50 film festivals. Out of 50, it got awarded over 28 recognitions. So that's pretty significant.
Yeah, congratulations. I'm so glad that you took on this project. I think that's amazing. And it is a story that needs to be told, and the human side needs to be told.
That's right. That's right.
Jen, I want to bring you back to, because you had mentioned there was different aliens on the ship. And that's something that I think is very unique. Explain to us, in Travers' encounter and experience, what aliens he interacted with and what did they do? Because he had met Grays first and then another species, right?
Yep. So I'll happily recap this little scenario. Travis wakes up after, he's hit by this beam of light in the forest and thrown like 15 feet. Some say 20 feet. We don't know. And that's where his memory ends, right? And the boys in the truck drive away. So now we'll jump to when Travis wakes up. He comes to, and we don't know how long that took. It could have been 2 hours or a day, but he was going in and out of consciousness. He was in a lot of pain. He knew he was being cared for. He could feel like beings around him caring for him. He could feel heat on his chest. He was having difficulty breathing. He opened his eyes, but he couldn't see. His vision was all blurry. Gradually, he began to open his eyes and see that there was something on his chest. So his eyesight from his eyes to his chest started to come into focus. As I recall the very specific details from interviewing him in depth and doing the reenactment. So his eyes suddenly focus on this, and then his eyes can start to focus a little further from what this device is laying across his chest. And as his eyes are open and trying to focus, he can see these beings around him, but he can't quite focus on them. He thinks they're doctors at first, like with maybe white doctor caps on and with white masks, now we know what a mask looks like, right? Yeah. So he sees these eyes and this mask. He thinks, because he can't quite focus, he thinks, it must be doctors. Then all of a sudden, at one point, like these 3 faces kind of lean over and look at him. 2 on one side, 1 on the other. And he realizes he's not in Kansas. And they aren't human. And he is repulsed. They are gray, like white, very white-skinned, pale-skinned, big eyes, not human. He gets freaked out. And he pushes one back. He's like, he hits one. And he describes it as feeling like a very old, frail woman, like a 90 or 100-year-old woman, like a very thin bone structure, a very slight being that probably didn't weigh more than 30 or 40 pounds, when he pushed it. And it fell on the one behind him. And then 2 of them kind of like stumbled. And then they came back up. And he, meanwhile, rolled off the table. This device falls on his chest. He finds some tools, which might be some sort of medical device on a table. He grabs one, turns around and starts flailing it in the direction of these beings that are now all standing kind of in a line on the opposite side of the bed from him that he rolled off of. And it really wasn't a bed. He described it like a metal table. And he has this device in his hand, he described it kind of looking like a piece of glass. And in the movie, we used a lucite plunger. We cut the plunger bottom off, but we used a strip of lucite because that's what he said it looked like. I held it up and said, what does this look like? Can I use this? He said, that's good, Jen. Looks like that, So he was banging that on the side of this metal bed, screaming at them and flailing this at them, telling them to back up and get away from him. And these 3 grays kind of lifted their arms up, their hands up, and he believes they tried to sort of control his mind or his electrical system or his nervous system. He felt like they were really moving into his head, and he was like, he didn't like that. And that made him even more angry. And finally, the 3 aliens kind of like looked at each other like, well, like, I guess this isn't working. And all of a sudden, all 3 of them turned as if they were one, kind of. He described it. And they walked out as if they were like a hive mind or one mind or something, like together. Like they walked out synchronistically together or sequentially together. And then he wanted to get out of this craft, so he followed him out. So that's the grays that he encountered. Wow.
Mm-hmm. And they often talk about...
I'll let you ask more questions. I don't want to go too far into the story if I'm taking you off track.
You're not.
No, that's good. Can you hear my mic?
We can.
Okay, yeah. I was silent earlier. Sorry, I didn't mean to totally drop out. Yeah, they talk a lot about the grays being like the worker bees, so it kind of would make sense that they're like just doing their job. You mentioned when we first brought you on about consciousness and how you're really going to bring around the whole contactee and abduction thing and the consciousness aspect of this. This was a very scary experience for Travis. Yes. Typically, abductions are scary, but I find also typically people come around to going, well, they obviously didn't really want to hurt me, even though it wasn't a pleasant experience. And Travis has said many times, I don't think they meant to, leave me in such bad shape. That's why they took me and kind of put me back together. So can you just talk a little bit about that part of it and what that makes you feel being so close to this story about what their intentions are for us?
Yeah, it's a beautiful point you bring up, Katie, because if Travis had been left there, right, either by his fellow logging crew, which they drove away, but they came back to get him because they realized they couldn't leave him there, because if he was seriously hurt or dead, they were responsible for him. And I think that the aliens sort of took the same, view. I think if he had been left there, we'll just say this, he definitely would have died. He would have probably had hypothermia or frozen at night in November. The temperature at 7,000 feet on the Mogollon Rim can drop easily below, 32 degrees. It can be in the teens or even in the zero digits. So without adequate shelter, someone could, easily freeze to death. But if you're unconscious and you're on the ground, you could also be easily eaten by a bear or a coyote or, maybe even a javelina. I don't know. We've got javelinas in Arizona. I'm sure they have something like that up in Arizona, in the northern part of Arizona too. So there were many problematic issues about him being in the forest at night like that. And he really believes that that's probably exactly what happened. They picked him up. He might have been dead. They might have picked him up to bring him back to life. And thank God they did, because even if the boys had gotten him into the truck, it was 45 minutes to the closest town, but the closest hospital, I don't even know how far. I think they might have had to go to Payson, which is a good hour and a half or away from where they were. So, it all, in all accounts, Travis has a lot of humility and a lot of gratitude in his life now, for many reasons. I mean, has a beautiful family. He's got fabulous grandchildren. And he's close with them, which is just wonderful. And I admire him for that. And his family has also not alienated him because of this experience, and they've stood by him. So I think for him to come to that conclusion and for us to capture it as well as we did in the documentary, I think that's why people really enjoy watching it. And, people can see it. It's up on Amazon. It's actually in 5 different languages now. And that's why the film's doing so well around the world. Right. It's in like French and Italian with subtitles, but it's doing well. And I think people who have experiences, abduction experiences or UFO experiences, or even missing time or frightening paranormal experiences, when they watch this, I think they feel a little more like they kind of get to know Travis in a more, intimate way than they would otherwise, just say watching Fire in the Sky or even then just reading his book. But all of those things are really good things to do because they're all pieces of the puzzle. And if you if you've read his book and if you've watched Fire in the Sky, then seeing the Travis Walton documentary is like the icing on the cake. It's like you get the whole picture. You get the cherry that you were missing, certainly from Fire in the Sky.
Absolutely. He is a fascinating person. I think people would enjoy getting to know more about him. I mean, he's even studied midwifery and delivered all his grandchildren. It's wild. But we've got 10 minutes left. And by the way, Travis, if you were watching, hi, we all say hi.
Travis. I think he is. I've gotten a text or two from him. So I think he's
Travis. Well, we've got you here because you've just studied this for so long. So I think I'd love to just pick your brain a little bit on just what you personally think is going on. I know that's a huge question, and we could spend 3 more hours on that. But genetic stuff, hybrid stuff, we're destroying the planet. I mean, if you can just throw some of your own personal thoughts out.
Well, I had my own experience. I'll just share this. Not many people do because I don't really speak about my own experiences. But in 1975, before Travis's experience, I had a missing time encounter with a craft that was about 90 feet long and about 8 or 9 feet high, I guess. And it was an undulating rectangle of white light. Now, that made absolutely no sense to me as a 19-year-old. I'm 2 years younger than Travis, so he was 21 at the time of his experience. I was 19. I didn't know how to unpack the story, and I left it in my gray box until I was older. I consciously talked myself into not being too freaked out about it. I wrote about it in my journal, but it became a passion of mine to try to unpack as I got older. So my journey has taken me to study Kabbalah, mysticism, Judaism, consciousness, yoga, macrobiotics, and people like Zecharia Sitchin. I read, I followed, I've traveled to ancient sites. I've, studied ancient Renaissance oil paintings. I've studied biblical history. It is now evident to me in my 60s that we are not alone in the universe. Most astronomers today will tell you you'd be quite naive to think that we were, now that we know the number of what we call habitable or likely habitable planets there are in our own Milky Way. And now we know how many other Milky Way galaxies there are, right? The likelihood that life has evolved elsewhere is the new shift in consciousness that humanity has got to mature into. And the sooner we mature into that realization,
Amen,
the greater we will be able to deal with the ramifications of contact. Contact may not be easy. It's not going to be a piece of cake. And we have to be tremendously suspicious always on guard of a government that for 70 years, not only our government, but I would say governments around the world, I'm not blaming the United States or any particular party, understand, but for 75 to 150 to whatever, couple thousand years, right, this phenomenon has been denied. And we now live in an age of significant disclosure. Granted, we have not gotten much data, right? But we have had the United States come forward and say, yes, we are being visited by something. We have had a Luis Elizondo come forward. Now, whether that's to our benefit or to further manipulate us, whether that's a ploy, we need to be very suspicious of what's going on. And we need to think critically. So I don't think we're alone. I think we've had contact for probably thousands of years on this planet. And I think the evidence is there on our planet of structures and history. You can go back into Vedic traditions in the Indian culture and read about civilizations that existed 10,000 years ago. Flying machines, Vimanas, right? At any biblical scripture you go to in any part of the world, in any indigenous culture, look at the Dogon, right, in Africa. They knew about Sirius A and B. So it's very clear to me that there are ancient structures, ancient civilizations, ancient messages that tell us and warn us about the nature of cataclysms that have happened in our own solar system. Just read Velikovsky and you'll realize, there's a lot of evidence the Earth may have been another planet in another place in our solar system, probably called Tiamat or Marduk. And it was probably out there next to Jupiter. I mean, I'm sorry, it was probably between Mars and, it's where the asteroid belt was, which I think is Mars and Jupiter. So we know so little, and we need to become humble about how we learn and how we teach. So hopefully I've answered your question in a heartfelt way.
Beautiful.
Jennifer, I do have a question for you, because you brought up about disclosure and everything. And I sat down and I watched this congressional hearing that they just had. And I can't, okay, that's what I want. I wanted to get your opinion of the congressional. I thought it was a joke. I thought these two guys were the most laughable people that I ever saw.
It was, but Chris, we have to remember the fact that we've even had a congressional hearing is hugely significant. The last time we had it was 1952, 53. And we all know what happened then. The Robertson panel, the Robertson report, and we've been living on deny, agenda for 75 years. So,
but you can't tell me it wasn't a comedy. I mean, it was a
like
joke,
a comedy.
those two guys.
Yeah. Well, but that might lead to more significant ones, because when anything significant came up in that hearing, they said, we're going to talk about it behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but we need to accept each step on the threshold as, wow, we're finally at a new step. We're not at the step we were at before.
100%.
That's
making
what
good
we
progress.
Yeah. We are. And it's going to be slow. Look at our lifetimes. We've come from nothing to finally, okay, they've opened the top of the box, Pandora's box, but they're not letting anything out of the box. Right? So
Not yet.
Those
Not
of
yet.
us who have been down the rabbit hole, those of us who have seen ourselves from across the room, who have left our bodies, those of us who have had conscious experience, those of us who have had profound precognitions that we know beyond a shadow of a doubt, that precognition saved my life and 10 other people.
Right.
Wow. I'm really glad I had it. But how do I digest it? It is not easy.
Right.
We
have a couple minutes left, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about Paula Harris's event.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, if you want
Paula
to talk
will
about
be
that
thrilled.
for a minute. Yeah.
Yes. Just briefly, I will say I've been very honored by Paula. I've spoken a couple times for her, but she's asked me to speak at her last conference that she says she's ever going to run. And it's going to be in Laughlin, Nevada. So those of us who know Paula's work, the name of her conference is called Star Works. And they're usually very intimate conferences. She's hosting it in Laughlin, Nevada. So it's at a casino resort, at the same resort that the International UFO Congress used to be at in the years when Bob Brown ran it. Yeah. Lovely building. I think it's called the Aquarius Hotel. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's not hard to get to. And, the price is reasonable. And it's usually a wonderful conference. So I am going to be speaking on Göbekli Tepe and the ancient world I'll be speaking on, and traveling there with Robert Schoch. And what I know about Robert Schoch's position on it and his view of it, and why it was a significant event for him. I love traveling with Robert. I've made several trips with him, along with Linda Howe and a number of other researchers. And it's just such a thrill. I really adore he and Katie. And Robert's agreed to give me a video update as well as to what has happened since we were there in 2012.
Well,
so
that's
it should
awesome.
be really,
I hope
really
we all
interesting.
see you out there. I thank you so much, Jennifer, for being our guest tonight. Thank you to Chris. Thank you to Katie. Thank you to our producer, Bill Skywatcher, and our co-producer, Amanda Kieran. Thank you. Awesome job. And thank you to all our listeners out there. And we hope to see you all back next Tuesday night live. Keep looking at the skies and report to MUFON if you see anything you can't explain. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.